Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we're going to talk about the brass. We're going to talk about the generals, what they said, what they did, because in a very, very short window of time, a whole bunch of stars, a constellation, have issued statements. And people are familiar with Mattis and Mullen, so we'll skip over those. If you're not, look them up. They're worth reading. There were some others that came out as well. The Joint Chiefs pretty much all made statements, and they all included the word listen. And we're going to get to why that's important here in a minute. And then General Thomas said something that I think is noteworthy. General Thomas is not well known. However, there are generals that are well known. There are generals that are liked. There are generals that are loved. There are generals that are respected. And there are generals that you don't want angry at you. I would put General Thomas in that category. General Thomas was commander of SOCOM. If you're not a gamer or you're not familiar with the military, Special Operations Command. In your favorite action movie, in the backstory of the lead character, they go through his resume and they're like, he was a SEAL or he was Delta. All of these units are part of SOCOM. He commanded all of SOCOM. He's not somebody I'd want mad at me. I don't think he coordinated his statements with anybody else. I think he saw something that upset him and he responded immediately. He took exception to the fact that the United States was referred to as a battle space. He thought that was the wrong term to use, and he is 100% correct. And that has come up a few times. A lot of people have asked, why haven't the brass spoken out sooner? There's a concept, and it's really important. I've done a video on it in the past about civilian control of the military. The idea is that the U.S. military is apolitical. It serves the commander-in-chief, period, full stop. It does not interject into domestic politics. That's why we haven't become a dictatorship. Most of these men feel ethically bound not to say anything. They feel that that is the best way they can serve the country, because we're a republic, we're a democracy. And therefore, they keep their opinions to themselves. The fact that you have had so many come out in such a short window of time to say something that is political or could be taken in a political way is very telling. It's something that we should pay attention to, because the desire to preserve their service or the country is more important than a very long tradition of keeping their mouths shut. It's something we should really pay attention to. Now, the far right can write a lot of these generals off, because there is the idea that once you hit 05, well, you're really just a politician. Okay, I don't believe that's true with a lot of these people. However, it's a pretty common concept. There's somebody else who made a statement, a couple actually, that can't be written off as easily. The Sergeant Major of the Army. Not a Sergeant Major in the Army, the Sergeant Major of the Army. He is the senior most enlisted person in the Army. Not to put too fine a point on it, he's a god in the Army. He sent out a few tweets, and they're basically the last video. It's incredibly similar. The only difference is, it took me like 9 minutes to get all of that out. He's an NCO, a non-commissioned officer. He's very direct. You can probably read all of his tweets in like 45 seconds, and it carries the exact same meaning. They're very concise. They say exactly what they mean. And that is what has caused some controversy. After his tweets, he made a video, a very short video, because he's an NCO. It starts off by saying that the country and the Army is struggling with racial inequality. This is not a controversial statement on this channel. NCOs say exactly what they mean. So the far right is livid because the struggle is racial inequality. It's not with protesters. He has correctly identified the source of the problem, and he said it. Sometimes when you're talking to NCOs, what isn't said is just as important as what is. And then what really drove him over the edge is they think he was sending a third message as well. And I'll be honest, I heard the same thing. However, I would not presume to put words into the Sergeant Major of the Army's mouth. He also used listen. The reason this matters, and you can ask the vets in the comment sections, if an NCO walks into a room and says, listen up, everybody stops. Doesn't matter what they were doing, they stop. Because there's more information that may change what they're doing at that exact moment. The fact that that term was in his statement, the Joint Chiefs statements, and the overall theme of all of the statements is about listening. It's important, and I am reading it the same way as the far right. The difference is I don't think it's a bad idea. These are people of action. Listen is not what you would expect to hear from them if they believed what was going on was a good idea. So again, I don't know that is what he was intending to convey. I heard it that way. A lot of other people heard it that way. But by what he said, he was sending a message to the country and a message to the Army. NCOs say exactly what they mean. So whether or not the country includes the president, that's for him to say. I don't know. Now, because of all of this, it has, of course, riled people up, and the idea of the far right disavowing, quote, soldiers who have taken a knee with protesters has arisen. I don't know what disavowing means, but what I do know is that under normal circumstances, when we're not all staying at home, I travel a great deal. I go to Columbus, Phoenix City, Fort Walton, Tampa, Clarksville, Dothan. If you ever see me in the bar and you have a photo on your phone of you in uniform taking a knee with the protesters, the next round's on me. I disavow, because we support the troops unless we can't use them for our own political agenda, I guess. It's important to keep an eye on these statements, because these are people who realistically could raise a division of volunteers with a tweet. All of the generals who have spoken out, all of the brass who have spoken out, all of the influential people within the military community who have spoken out, they're all on the same side. They're all very clear that they think that this is a bad idea. It's worth the noting. It's worth paying attention to. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.